Hello everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Sports Inside with your host Alamdar Khan. And yes, as you know, we give you sports information from all across the globe. You guys can surely reach out to us on our social media handle, which is at the rate of Indus News Sports. That works both for Twitter and for Instagram. But anyways, we'll go to the headlines first. And yes, from the world of cricket, Ramiz Raja is all set to become the Pakistan Cricket Board Chairman. And yes, from the world of Premier League, Cristiano Ronaldo, yes, Manchester City very close to the agreement of stunning Premier League return. And yes, from the world of tennis, we talk about US Open. The US Open will offer mental health services to the athletes this year. And yes, from the world of Tokyo Paralympics, talking about Mary Lyle, who actually won the bronze for Paralympics in women T35 100 meters. And yes, those were the headlines. And talking about the interesting subject, yes, Ramiz Raja is all set to become the PCB chairman. But it's still under consideration for the fact that, there are a few more internal things that would be sorted before he comes to that position. And not to forget, before this, Ehsan Mani was obviously there, but with time, obviously, he needed an extension for a year. But obviously, when it was offered to him, he refused to do so. And in terms of the Prime Minister himself, actually wanted him to be appointed as, the new chairman. So to discuss the in-depth analysis of the world of cricket, we have with us Shahryar Malik. Shahryar, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So Shahryar, I'm going to start off with obviously discussing this major news in terms of, the PCB chairman. Obviously, it's supposed to be the backbone of the team and obviously the entire perspective in terms of how PCB has been so far. Ehsan Mani obviously had played his part well, but yes, there were question marks in a few things. But, I would rather want to hear more from your side. What do you think about this decision?
Yes, I think the way is clear for Ramiz Raja now. But to be very clear, there are 6 board members, board of directors. There will be an election inside PCB, and then one will be elected as PCB chairman. Right. But I think things are very clear for Ramiz Raja right now, and hopefully we'll see him soon as the PCB chairman, as it has been directed by the PM itself. And the time of Ehsan Mani, there have been ups and downs during his tenure as well. Let's see how Ramiz Raja now takes things forward from him.
Right. And if we look back into his career, obviously, Ramiz Raja has been an integral part of the team. And he was obviously, back in 1992, he was definitely part of the team led by PM Imran Khan himself. So what do you think, him being a cricketer, would he be able to pull off those strings that are truly supposed to as an athlete, as a cricketer? Because I think he probably would have more in-depth knowledge of how things should be, because I've been following Ramiz Raja's work with regards to his videos and stuff online, and obviously he always gives a very intense analysis in terms of what could have been done in the team and what could have not been done in the team. So what's your take on him obviously having that prior knowledge and that wisdom to share with the upcoming team and PCB itself?
Yes, as you've said, that he's been with the team and he's been in some role regarding the team. And hopefully, the man who has been in the team playing 11 for Pakistan, winning the World Cup, then been very close to the team as a mentor, you can say. But he's basically not a mentor, but as a role of his mentor, guiding the juniors as well. And it will be very interesting to see how he takes things.
Right. I would also want to ask you in terms of the situation. I've also seen Ramiz Raja at one point talking about Mohammad Amir. And, that was definitely one of the things that I saw him. And he obviously did have a lot of question marks about that. And I also saw him talking about so many players who literally go unseen. So do you think he would be able to pull off those strings to make sure that all those deserving cricketers who can make, Pakistan cricket team one of the best teams in the world, would he do or take his stance as a PCB chairman and pull off those strings?
Yes, that will be the most interesting part to see how he takes the things from now onwards. And we've seen him being a very good critic of Pakistan cricket, the way he analyzes all the aspects of Pakistan cricket, and the way he wants the new young talent to be coming forward and promotes the things. So that's a positive thing, I guess. I hope, and we all hope, rather, when he becomes the PCB chairman, he really look behind the way he had been talking about things, and hopefully things can be a little more better. Things can be a little more in a good. He can make a good route, you can say, that things can fall in one line, and hopefully they all make a good contribution to the board and to our cricket in general.
Right, and as as I was going through the statement, it's also said that the aim is to reset Pakistan's cricket GPS and will be in the pursuit of excellence. The point is, I still remember as a critique, obviously he did have a lot of questions with regards to so many players, and now that he would be there, as we all still know that it is yet again a political entity. So it's going to be very smart for him. I don't know if he's really good in politics or not, but one has to play that political role as well, because we want the best of the team, and I think making this decision or taking this decision at this time will be interesting. Why? Because T20 World Cup is nearby. It's going to be 17th October. So I think before that, I think it should happen so that some good vibes can come from Ramiz Raja to our team.
Exactly. We've to see the vibes he had with Mohammad Hafiz. We've seen them getting not on a good note in Twitter. We've seen them.
Right.
Am I clear?
Right, absolutely.
Yes. And let's see if he retains Mohammad Hafiz in the team as well. And let's see how he takes things forward, because we've seen him being a very good, he has good relations with Indian side as well. And now, with the way we've been with the Indian boards in the previous time, let's see how Ramiz Raja takes things with the Indian board now. Will he have a tough stance against them, or will he be friendly as he is with them? So it will be a very good thing to see as well.
Well, realistically, obviously, in terms of how he is, he's a pure sportsman to begin with. And I think in terms of those who actually live for the sports are the people that, would actually want to spread more peace and harmony, because I think I've never seen him, he always knows how to balance it out in terms of coordinating or interacting with the different people from different countries.
Exactly. That is the best way forward, and we hope that we can have good relations with Indians as well. And hopefully with Ramiz in charge of PCB, now we hope that things will move in a better direction.
Right. I would also want to talk to you about the upcoming T20 World Cup. Of course, that's one of the interesting things that is definitely lined up. And I thought, we'll probably have an overview discussion with you with regards to it. So it starts from the 17th of October. And obviously, with the teams performing, we're so looking forward. We talk about the Super 12. We're so looking forward for some interesting matches. So what's your take on Pakistan to begin with? If we see Pakistan, and obviously with this Ramiz Raja vibe, I think things may go into the right direction. So how do you see us being prepared? And then we can further discuss how things are lined up for this upcoming T20 World Cup.
Yes, as we've discussed earlier as well, that this T20 World Cup is very important for all the teams, and many teams are well prepared for it. We've seen many players coming back for Australia as well. The senior players will be back in the team, and like Bangladesh has beaten Australia, your favorite series, I would say. And Bangladesh is prepared very well. Now we have to see how Afghanistan's team go along after the turmoil in Afghanistan. We hope that no players are drop out from their team of World Cup, and they participate in full strength. And especially another new PCB Afghanistan board's chairman. Let's see how things move forward for them as well. And hopefully our team is lacking. We've talked about it earlier as well, that we've been lacking in the middle order. Let's see how they cope up in the middle. And Hafiz and Shoaib Malik are playing in the CPL as well right now. Yesterday they couldn't score well, but that will be very important for them, how they play in West Indies, and how if they can manage to play in the T20 World Cup carrying the form, if they get some good scores in West Indies. So it will be very interesting to see all these things, and especially the tour we're having of New Zealand as well. Can you talk about it as well?
Yes, absolutely. I would also want to, if you want to talk about it, would love to, for the fact that, that is going to play a very integral part in the motivation level of Pakistan and, of course, New Zealand. But definitely for us, because of the fact that New Zealand is coming to Pakistan after 18 years, to have them in Pakistan on our soil is going to be interesting. And I think this tournament would surely be a morale booster for Pakistan. Why? Because eventually it would give us a very clear picture of where we truly stand in terms of the conditions that we'll probably find in the UAE and in Oman.
Exactly. But the main thing is the things aren't very sure right now. I'm not sure if New Zealand will visit after the Afghanistan's turmoil, because I've been hearing things that it might be delayed. So first thing first, we hope that it carries on and all the main players of New Zealand visit Pakistan. If that happens, then of course it will be a very important series for both the teams. And if we can go on a winning combination and winning morale, so it will be a morale booster for us in the World Cup.
Right. I would also want to talk about Afghanistan, as you mentioned. That is surely an issue for them as well. I don't even know, and we are not even sure if they'd be able to get there to participate in the upcoming T20 World Cup.
Till now, the new government that we formed, they've said that they won't stop the cricketers from playing cricket. But I fear that many cricketers would want to relocate to some other countries right now after the turmoil. And maybe this is the last time we see Afghanistan in T20 World Cup as a team, because I fear that they'll be relocating to some other countries and may not be playing together after that. So it will be very interesting to see how they manage this World Cup, having their loved ones in Afghanistan. And of course, it will be affecting their game as well, because it settles in the mind and it plays different games with them. So it will be very interesting to see how they cope up with things and how they move forward.
Right. Well, Shahryar, thank you so much for being a part of the show and discussing the world of cricket with us once again. And we pray that, Afghanistan issues get solved and, all things are intact in the world of sports. And, we definitely appreciate sports. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
So that was the in-depth analysis. Of course, we started off talking about Ramiz Raja to become the PCB chairman, and obviously there would be an election, internal one, which would actually formulate the final decision. But hopefully, we all have eyes on the fact that he would come on board. But when he does, will he bring that positive change and the positive vibe that the team needs to move on and, get us the World Cup T20s, and make sure that, they perform the way they're supposed to. Let's hope for the best. And we also discussed T20 World Cup, which obviously starts from the 17th of October. Not only that, we also talked about, and the most important match obviously is going to be Pakistan versus India, which is 24th of October. Anyways, guys, what we'll do is we'll take a quick break. Once we get back from the break, there is more coming in from the world of sports. See you guys after the break. And yes, welcome back from the break. And yes, before the break, we were discussing the world of cricket. But as you know, we discuss all sorts of sports. But now I'm going to jump in to the world of football. I'm going to talk more about Premier League and the transfers that are currently underway. We're going to talk about the major one that's happening. Yes, I'm talking about Cristiano Ronaldo's transfer. And it's going to be super interesting. But to discuss the in-depth analysis of what's truly happening in the world of football, we have with us Rob Harris. Rob, welcome to the show.
Great to join you again.
Awesome. So, Rob, I'm going to start off with one story that is out there and people are talking. Obviously, Juventus is set to leave. It depends on if they do so, leave Ronaldo. And, they're still asking for around 28 million euros to begin with. But I would want your expert opinion of how truly is it now formulating for his transfer.
I mean, so much looks like he's bidding farewell in a way to Juventus. The images from the training ground, the sense is that Ronaldo's team, Jorge Mendes, was called in to see the Juventus leadership on Thursday, and things could be drawing to a close. No season for him. He was on the bench on the weekend for Juventus. Reports was he requested to be and trying to find a way out. And of course, the big reason Ronaldo was signed by Juventus, so much money was invested in him, was to try to win the Champions League, and they haven't even reached a semi-final with him, so really not worked out as expected, and yet a huge financial outlay for Juventus. And obviously, like many clubs, reeling from the effects financially of the pandemic and needing to try to balance the books too. But the question is, can they get some sort of transfer fee from Manchester City? He only has 1 year left on his contract. So now the question is, can a deal be done with Manchester City? And what an amazing turnaround that would be in Ronaldo's career, who really made his name at Manchester United, winning all the major trophies, an absolute legend amongst United fans. And there we could be going back to their great City rivals. And so much has changed, of course, since Cristiano Ronaldo left Manchester United a dozen years ago, with City, of course, now the really dominant force in Manchester and indeed English football.
Right, and if we look into these transfers, obviously, if we talk about how Messi, finally came up to a point of leaving Barca and, going to the situation of getting signed up by PSG, I think it's going to be super interesting in terms of, the entire league. If we talk about, I think all these transfers are going to make all these teams super, super solid. But let's see how things flow. I think it would be super clash of the Titans.
And many keep on saying, how many years does Ronaldo have left in his career? He's 36. But he keeps himself in good shape, looks after his body, right, and seems like he can still go on for a few years. Maybe not with the complete pace, although not something that's always been there in recent years. And if you just look at this transfer window as a whole, incredible. Both Ronaldo and Messi moving clubs, potentially both in the same window, with Messi already getting that switch to PSG and them getting him for nothing as a free agent. But what we're really seeing is perhaps something expected. Two of the richest clubs in world football, those with the backing of sovereign wealth funds, landing two of the game's biggest names in the history. The fact with Qatari-backed PSG and Abu Dhabi-backed Manchester City. And of course, as we now know, the two teams will be playing each other in the Champions League group stage after the draw on Thursday in Istanbul.
Yeah, that would be super interesting. And, talking about the entire perspective in terms of football, you're absolutely right in terms of, the pandemic times. Things were pretty different. But do you still expect Juventus to maybe cut off some sort of deal? Because even though they've asked for like 28 million euros, but I'm sure they would still probably cut some sort of deal in terms of the financial numbers.
Well, it helped to sort of get Ronaldo off their wage bill if that's what they want to do. So just this week, they've had a share issue to raise $400 million. So that really shows the financial situation Juventus are in, trying to bring revenue into the club. Of course, Juventus were one of the driving forces behind the European Super League debacle in April, and they are actually still clinging onto that project, with Real Madrid and Barcelona still trying to hope it comes to life again one day, despite the clear resistance from those within the game and the other 9 teams pulling out of it very early on in the project. But yeah, the question is now, can Juventus get the deal with Manchester City that would be suitable for them? Really, City the only destination you would think. And City, of course, in need of a forward too, because this is the week, of course, that saw Harry Kane's move to City collapse, the one he'd been pursuing all summer, with a resistance from Tottenham to sell. City seemingly coming nowhere near the valuation of Tottenham for Harry Kane. And Kane sticking around for Spurs for now, getting a couple of goals in the Europa Conference League on Thursday night. He didn't expect to be in a third-tier competition in Europe, but that's where he will be now this season.
Right. Yes, that was also one interesting story that was out there in terms of Harry Kane. But yes, let's hope things formulate, because I think it's the ending of the transfer and, things will finally come up to a conclusive side. I would also want you to discuss, a few Premier League clubs who will not release players for international games in the UK's red list countries. That's one of the subjects that I would want you to share and discuss more, so that, our viewers know what's truly happening out there.
Yeah, this has been a huge growing issue through the week, created a lot of friction between FIFA and confederations and European leagues and clubs, because we've also got World Cup qualifying resuming next week for Qatar 2022. Right. And South America has been particularly troubled by this, in the sense of they've had fixtures they've had to postpone when other confederations have been able to play games. The issue is, so many players from South America are playing in England, but every South American country is currently on England's red list. So this means anyone returning from those countries has to spend 10 days in mandatory hotel quarantine. So any player going on international duty there would come back and miss Premier League games, Champions League games, League Cup games. So that would be a huge blow for the clubs. So the Premier League clubs all got together and decided, we're not releasing any players to go on international duty to red list countries. It also impacts South Africa and Egypt and other countries too. Of course, Pakistan as well on the red list for England. And, there are no exemptions for athletes. Now, the Confederation of African Football points out there were exemptions in place for the European Championship, which allowed people to fly around freely across Europe if they were players or indeed media at the Euros. That exemption is no longer needed in European football in terms of from England, because actually, as long as you've been double vaccinated for most European countries, you can return them without quarantining. But we've had the Italian League and French League and Spanish League also speaking out against FIFA, demanding the mandatory release of players for these games. There was an opt-out in the last year, knowing that there were travel restrictions and issues. Players could choose not to go and play for their countries, knowing there were quarantine issues. Now, the particular issues around the likes of France and Spain and Italy are less around players having to quarantine on return and more the configuration of this triple header of fixtures. Normally there being only 2 qualifiers, but even in Europe there are 3 this time. But it's the positioning of that third fixture in South America, and it's on the Thursday at the end of the international fortnight, just less than 2 days before domestic leagues in Europe are due to resume again. So as it stands now, it's an impasse. You've got FIFA appealing for clubs to release their players. They've written to Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister, asking them to lift quarantine restrictions and to grant exemptions. But as it stands now, the clubs and the leagues aren't budging, and FIFA has threatened potential sanctions for clubs who don't release their players. And obviously this impacts Lionel Messi not going to play for Argentina, and Neymar as well from PSG, and obviously a load of players in the Premier League, particularly Brazilian players as well. Alisson with Liverpool, we've got Mohamed Salah who can't go with Egypt from Liverpool. So yeah, it's a real complicated situation, and just days until the international break is due to start.
Right. Rob, to be very honest, in terms of this, this seems even a bigger turmoil if we look back into 2020 situation and we look at it now. I think this is a more disastrous situation out there for all these players who actually want to contribute to their nations and also play the Premier League.
Yeah, it is. And actually, we've talked about all that football politics of all this and all the machinations. Ultimately, if we look at the British travel advice, it's don't go to red list countries. Actually, only go if it's really essential to do so because of the high risk of coronavirus infections. Right. And yet, this would be going to make that trip for footballing reasons, which you could say is not particularly essential. Against the backdrop of all this, you might get the sense that particularly a country like the UK then is trying to protect some really low coronavirus case numbers and not wanting to import them in and do anything that is risky. Right. Actually, there's around almost 40,000 cases a day at the moment in the UK, more than 100 deaths or so as well. Right. So there is quite a severe pandemic situation already, obviously not as bad as the previous waves.
Well, we actually, all we can do is, Rob, for now, we can definitely hope in terms of, for the love of football, and obviously trying to ensure that things fall into the right place. And, these sanctions should be eased down for the betterment of the sport. But thank you once again for being a part of the show in discussing the in-depth analysis from the world of football.
Great to join you.
Pleasure. So that was Rob Harris, and obviously he provided us all the in-depth analysis. We started off discussing the transfers, but then we definitely talked about the major subject, which is the Premier League club that actually will not allow or release players to play international games in the UK's red list countries, which is definitely a question mark out there, but the story is still developing, and once we get to hear more, we'll definitely share more. Anyways, guys, we'll quickly jump over to the third news, which is talking about the US Open. Yes, from the world of tennis, if you look back into Naomi Osaka's history, obviously she has been raising a lot of voice for mental health awareness. So finally, the 2021 US Open will offer mental health services to the athletes. And I think this finally came to life after the history of Osaka's journey. And, she has been going through a lot of issues with regards to mental health awareness. But I think this is one interesting subject that has to be, talked about. It is not a taboo anymore. And it actually all started from the French Open back in 2020. But let's hope that, it's not only her. If we also look into Simone Biles, she also withdrew several times because of the mental health awareness and mental health issues. So these issues actually started raising because of the COVID-19 situation. And since then, the athletes and all the players are suffering from it. But let's hope that, the US Open takes it very seriously and not take it as a taboo, and maybe work on it and work on the athletes and get it addressed. So this was from the world of tennis. I'll quickly jump over to Tokyo Paralympics. Yes, a quick news about that. Maria Lyle actually won the bronze medal in the Paralympics in the women T35 100 meter, and of course, talking about her timing, she crossed the finish line in 14.18 seconds to finish the third. And Lyle she has cerebral palsy, and she's been suffering from mental health issues as well. So looking at the entire situations of this, I think mental health awareness and the situation is surely out there. And talking about Paralympics, of course, those who are struggling, but they don't give up. And I would definitely want all out there to, give round of applause for individuals like these who actually are standing up for themselves in the Paralympics. Anyways, guys, this was pretty much it from the world of sports. If you want to reach to us, you can on our social media handle, which is @Indus News Sports. That works both for Twitter and for Instagram. Till then, take care of yourselves, and bye-bye.